February 14, 1933, 4:32 a.m. Valentine's Day morning. 12 armed killers descended into the Cotton Club basement. Their target, a 27-year-old enforcer named Bumpy Johnson. Their boss, Dutch Schultz, the most feared mobster in New York. Tommy, the executioner, stepped forward, gun drawn. Dutch sends his regards. Bumpy Johnson stood there, outnumbered 12-1, hands at his sides, face calm. He looked around the room slowly, counting each killer. Then he looked back at Tommy and said 5 words that would echo through crime history. That all he sent. 90 minutes later, only one man crawled out of that basement alive. Blood-soaked, broken, clutching a single playing card, the ace of spades. And the message he delivered to Dutch Schultz would end their war before it truly began. This is the true story of the night Bumpy Johnson became untouchable. The empire under threat. To understand what happened in that basement, you need to understand the war brewing in 1933 Harlem. The Great Depression had hit hard, but one business was booming. The numbers racket. The illegal lottery where a nickel bet could win you $50. For people making $7 a week, that nickel was pure hope. Dutch Schultz saw those millions flowing through Harlem's streets and wanted every penny. Arthur Flegenheimer, that was Dutch's real name, had built an empire on prohibition bootlegging, but prohibition was ending and Dutch needed a new kingdom. Harlem's numbers game looked perfect, defenseless, ripe for the taking. There was just one problem. Harlem already had protectors. Madame Stephaniste, Claire, the Caribbean immigrant who'd built the numbers empire from nothing. And her enforcer, a young man who'd earned respect the hard way, Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy was different from other muscle. He'd educated himself in prison, reading Shakespeare and philosophy. He understood that in Harlem, respect wasn't bought with fear. It was earned through loyalty. When someone robbed Madame St. Claire's runners, Bumpy got the money back. When corrupt cops harassed black businesses, Bumpy made the harassment stop. Dutch Schultz was about to learn the difference between ruling through terror and commanding through respect. The ultimatum, January 1933. Dutch's emissaries walked into Madame St. Claire's club on the 133rd Street. White men in expensive suits, carrying an ultimatum from the most powerful mobster in New York. Work with Dutch, they said. Pay tribute or get buried. Madame St. Claire, this small Caribbean woman who'd built an empire with her bare hands, looked at these men sitting in her club and said 2 words. Get out. The emissaries turned to the quiet young man standing in the corner. Bumpy Johnson hadn't moved, hadn't spoken. He just stared. That stare. The one that made strong men check their life insurance policies. You want to be smart about this. One emissary said. Bumpy still didn't speak, didn't move, just stared. The emissaries left, reporting back to Dutch. They refused. Dutch Schultz had never been told no, not by anyone. Certainly not by a black woman and her enforcer. His decision was swift and brutal. Burn it all down. Starting with Bumpy Johnson. But Dutch didn't want just another murder. He wanted a message. Public, brutal. The kind of death that makes everyone else fall in line. The Trap, February 14, 1933. Valentine's Day irony at its finest. Bumpy got a tip Dutch's men were planning to hit Madame St. Claire's main counting house on Lenox Avenue at dawn. Bumpy went to check it out alone. Maybe that was his first mistake. Or maybe Bumpy knew exactly what he was walking into. The Cotton Club basement. Not the famous club downtown where white audiences watched black entertainers. This was the real Cotton Club, the after-hours spot where Harlem's power players came to drink, gamble, and settle scores. The basement storage crates, poker tables, and one narrow staircase leading out. The perfect trap. 4:32 a.m. Bumpy descended those stairs. The room was dark except for one light bulb swinging from the ceiling. Then he heard it. The unmistakable sound of 12 safeties clicking off. 12 guns. 12 killers stepping out of the shadows. Dutch Schultz had sent his deadliest crew. Tommy, the executioner, 16 confirmed kills. Vento Martinez, disappeared entire families. Icepick Delaney, his nickname said everything. 9 more whose names even the police didn't know. Tommy stepped forward, smiled, raised his gun. Dutch sends his regards. The calculation, here's what people never understood about Bumpy Johnson. He didn't posture, didn't bluff. When he spoke, he meant every word. Standing there outnumbered 12-1 asking, that all he sent wasn't bravado. It was calculation. You got about 5 seconds to beg, Tommy said, finger tightening on the trigger. Bumpy tilted his head slightly. You're making a mistake? What mistake? You're about to be dead. The mistake, Bumpy said slowly, is thinking I came here alone. 12 guns stayed trained on him. But now there was hesitation. Doubt. Tommy glanced toward the stairs. Nothing there. Looked back at Bumpy. You're bluffing. Bumpy smiled for the first time that morning. Then shoot. Nobody shot. Because something in Bumpy's voice, something in his absolute calm, made them hesitate. And in that hesitation, Bumpy saw his opportunity. Violence has a rhythm. Bumpy Johnson had learned this truth in Charleston street fights, in prison riots, in territory wars. And right now, standing in that basement, he controlled the rhythm. Tommy's finger moved toward the trigger. Last chance. Bumpy moved. 3 minutes of hell. What happened next defied explanation. The one survivor's testimony was fragmented, confused, traumatized. But here's what we know: Bumpy didn't go for a gun. He went for the light. One punch. The hanging bulb exploded. Complete darkness, then chaos. The first shots came wild, panicked. Men shooting at shadows, at sounds.
Tommy screaming, "Hold your fire! Hold your fire!"
But fear doesn't follow orders. In that darkness, Bumpy became something else. He knew that basement, had played poker there 100 times, knew every crate, every table, every corner. Dutch's men didn't. One by one, you could hear them going down. Not from gunshots. Bumpy didn't waste bullets. He used his hands, used their confusion, used the fact that they were shooting each other in the panic. A scream. A body hitting the floor. Another gunshot. Another scream. Tommy tried to rally them. The stairs! Get to the stairs! But Bumpy was already there. The violence lasted 3 minutes. 3 minutes that felt like 3 hours. And then silence. When someone finally opened the basement door from upstairs, letting light spill down those steps, here's what they found: 11 bodies. Not all dead, but all down. Broken bones, gunshot wounds from friendly fire, unconscious, bleeding. And one man sitting against the wall, hyperventilating, gun still in his shaking hands. Marty, Icepick Delaney, the only one still conscious. Bumpy Johnson was gone, vanished like smoke. The message: Marty Delaney crawled up those stairs. 20 agonizing minutes, every step torture. Broken ribs, maybe worse. He made it to the street as the sun rose, flagged down a cab with blood-soaked money. Bronx, he gasped. Arthur Avenue. Dutch Schultz's headquarters. 8:17 a.m. Marty stumbled into Dutch's social club. Dutch was eating breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee. Reading the morning newspaper. He looked up, saw Marty covered in blood, and went completely still. Where are the others? Marty couldn't speak at first, just shook his head. Where are my men? Dead? Marty finally whispered. All of them. He let me live. Dutch stood up slowly. He what? He let me live to give you a message. The entire room went quiet. Dutch's lieutenants, accountants, bodyguards. Everyone stopped, watched, waited. What message? Dutch's voice was ice. Marty reached into his jacket. Dutch's men reached for their guns, but Marty pulled out something that made them freeze: a single playing card. The ace of spades. Covered in blood. He placed it on the table in front of Dutch. He said to tell you Harlem's not for sale, and if you send more men, send more cards. He's collecting a deck. The surrendered Dutch Schultz stared at that bloodied card for what felt like an eternity. His men waited for the order, waited for Dutch to unleash hell, to send 50 men to burn Harlem to the ground. Instead, Dutch picked up the card, studied it, then smiled. Not a happy smile, a resignation smile. He's got balls, I'll give him that. Boss, we can't let this. Dutch held up his hand. You know what it costs to go to war with someone who's not afraid to die. Someone who's smarter than you. Someone who has an entire neighborhood behind him. He shook his head. It costs everything. And for what? Numbers money. There's easier money elsewhere. Dutch dropped the card in the ashtray, lit it on fire. We're done in Harlem. Let Bumpy Johnson have it. The decision shocked everyone. Dutch Schultz, the man who'd gone to war with Lucky Luciano, who'd killed his own partners, who never backed down. Backing down. Why? Because Bumpy had done something even Dutch respected. He'd proven he was willing to die for his principles. And men like that, you don't fight them. You either kill them or you leave them alone. Dutch couldn't kill him. The truth behind the legend years later, in the 1970s, a reporter tracked down an old Cotton Club employee, asked him what really happened that night. The old man smiled. You want the truth. Bumpy wasn't alone. What? He had 4 guys upstairs the whole time. They locked the basement door from the outside once Dutch's men went down. Trapped them in. Bumpy could have killed all 12 if he wanted. But he let one live on purpose. Why? Because Bumpy understood something most people miss: killing Dutch's men would start a war. Humiliating them. That ends it. Whether that's true or legend, nobody knows for sure. What we do know after that night, Dutch Schultz never sent another man to Harlem. Bumpy Johnson became the undisputed king of Harlem's underworld. And for the next 35 years, he protected that neighborhood like his own family. Not with indiscriminate violence, but with strategy, intelligence, and a code. The ace in the office, that ace of spades. Bumpy kept it. Framed it, hung it in his office. A reminder that respect isn't given, it's taken. February 14, 1933. 12 men walked into a basement. 1 walked out, and Harlem was never the same. The night Bumpy Johnson proved that sometimes the deadliest weapon isn't a gun or a knife, or even an army of killers. Sometimes it's knowing exactly who you are, exactly what you're fighting for, and being willing to die for it. That's the message Marty Delaney delivered to Dutch Schultz. That's the message that ended a war before it truly began. 1 man, 1 basement, 1 bloodied playing card, and the birth of a legend that would rule Harlem for decades to come.